Welcome today on Revealing Wholeness. This is a special podcast done by Dr. Troy Munson. When on the phone, he talks to two ladies who have had weight problems most of their life, but finally found the answer. Now, here is part 2 of this very special presentation.
Yes, Laura, I'll take this one first.
Okay.
I've been in FA since 2005, and I've lived in a number of different states in the country while I've been in active recovery, and it's really fascinating. Different places seem to have different, you can live in areas where there is, real nutritional poverty. Not financial poverty, but real nutritional poverty, where it's just really challenging and difficult to get healthy, whole foods, and where culturally it's all celebrations are about just foods that contribute to poor health outcomes. I'll just put it that way. Yeah. What I have seen in over the spectrum of healthier places where food access is a little bit more abundant and where it's a little bit more scarce is the exact same thing. People come in after having eaten flour, sugar, fat, crunchy, starchy, like really overly processed foods over a long period of time. And get introduced to eating what we really think of. I mean, there is no diet. There is no, you wouldn't come to a meeting and see an actual meal plan on the back table that you can pick up and go, that you can go take with you, because our program is so much about the relationship of the addict to the sponsor, the addict to the fellows, the co-fellows, the addict to the meetings, and the addict to an idea that we really need a power greater than ourselves to assist in those times when there isn't another human being to help assist, when there's not a person to call or there's nobody on the other end of the phone, that there is, a sort of a spiritual awakening that occurs. We're definitely not a religious program. We have no opinion whatsoever on what that sort of higher spiritual presence is, just that there needs to be one because of ourselves and on our own, our willpowers, our mental, our intelligence, our ability to manage every other aspect of our lives has failed utterly when it comes to food, which is both heartbreaking and kind of amazing and important at the same time, right? It's heartbreaking when you are like, I am a competent professional in the world. I have success in many areas of my life, but I can't not eat the whole bag of Oreos. Do you know what I mean? That's really painful. And when I walked into a room of food addicts in Recovery Anonymous, I saw people of all different sizes and shapes, but I knew because of the physical recovery demonstrated that there was a real answer. There was a real answer there because people had put down addictive eating and had stopped addictive eating and were sharing about solving problems that used to be true conundrums, relationships healed. The other thing, and I think to your point, I think, a long way to answer your question is we see people get up in front of the room and a lot of people will give their numbers, but then they'll also talk about, the diabetes medication that they used to be on that they're no longer on. They talk about their heart medication that they used to be on, they're no longer on. They talk about handing in their sleep apnea machine because the compression of the weight that is pressing down on their bodies is no longer there. We hear about their knee pain gone, their hip pain gone, their inflammation is healed. There's like people's skin, I speak for myself, My skin really cleared up. My hair got thicker and healthier. My, my ability to, so that's sort of physical, medical, but things like getting on an airplane and walking to the back bathroom, not having to ask for an extender, not having the person I'm about to sit next to look at me like, oh no, I'm disappointed that you're going to spill over into my seat, which is really, really painful. And, we hear stories like this all the time at every meeting. And that doesn't even get into how relationships are restored, how parents feel closer to their children, how partners feel closer to their romantic partners, how people are able to be more available to their parents, their coworkers, how the focus of not being in a food fog, of being in a food hangover, being in an addictive food loop allows us to be available in all the places and spaces we show up in the world.
That's phenomenal. I mean, truly, that's awesome. Laura, you have anything to add?
Yeah, I was just thinking of a couple of examples of things that I've seen in the room. I've seen at least one woman come in and have 2 health pregnancies in the program and gain some weight, but not have to put on the 70 pounds that I put on, maybe, just that healthy weight gain and then, be doing more, be able to nurse and do all that. I know of who were like binging and purging every single night and couldn't stop. And then the next day could. We had one fellow that I saw, and a lot of times we bring what we call our book. We have pictures that we show so people can kind of see the evidence, and they're looking at us in the front. And she brought her pictures, and she wasn't overweight; she was underweight. And to see the heartbreaking picture of someone who was, severely underweight and had some of these same things in her mind that we have. People who exercise, compulsively, and they don't even look like they barely have any weight to lose. But when you talk to them, they will talk about the craziness in their head, the uncertainty, the feeling of fear, and all those things, and maybe their body didn't change, but you could see in their countenance. And that was something that a friend pointed out to me when I had for a few months. We went walking, and she said, "Laura, you look so good." And she said, I know I see it in your body. She said, but I can see it in your eyes, because the guilt and the shame and the craziness in the head is gone. And we see it over and over again. The anger, we hear about people who just raged, would have a special room in their house where they lock them, go into and just go at it with themselves, trying to hold back from hurting anybody in their family or whatever, and then to be able to now be sane because they don't have this food stuff in them, making them go crazy. That's just a few examples from stories that I've heard in the rooms, people I've seen, I've talked to face who've shared this stuff.
Sure. And I did a podcast not too long ago on, this concept of we don't war against the flesh and blood. And we tend to pick on these things, and we do feel shame and guilt and all these things that go with it. When really, as you've all found out, and as I think people that have been through some of these healing processes realize that it is definitely a spiritual battle. What have I put between me and the truth of what I am that now seems to run my life in such a negative way? And so can you speak now into kind of the program, maybe a little bit more about what does it look like, if that's okay?
Yeah, I think you want to do that, Julie, or can I?
Well, I can take a stab at it, and then you can correct or fill in any blank spaces. Can I just say too, first, I know Laura and I are talking a lot, and it's really hard to not really celebrate the physical recovery aspects of being in this 12-step program. And I want to just make the distinction that one of the tools that we work regularly is, we call it the tool of abstinence, which essentially is this commitment to eating the foods that we plan to eat in collaboration with our sponsors, which is, the person that we ask to sort of guide us through the recovery program. We're not nutritionists. We pretty much, hand down a food plan as it's been handed down to us. It's more of an oral tradition than it is a printed food plan. But essentially, and there is some variation and some variety. But I assure you that there is pretty much all the foods we eat are the foods that most physicians would say, eat these whole foods, stay away from large doses of sugar and, but we eat fruits and vegetables and whole grains and proteins, and you can be vegetarian, you can be plant-based, you can eat meats, you can't, and there's a lot of choice and variety. But there's real parameters around, how much we eat, because quantities for many of us is a huge issue. So we have a food plan. We follow a food plan that has that is quantity specific of the food groups, essentially, and then we within that food plan get to choose what I'm going to eat. And in the very beginning, when somebody first joins Food Addicts in Recovery Anonymous and they get a sponsor and they make the commitment to call that sponsor and come to meetings, several meetings a week, and make phone calls to other members. And, these are some of the other tools that we use. The tool of abstinence is really introduced in the beginning, but it's not the goal. It is introduced as one of the tools in a constellation that affords the person to recover from an addictive state of being. And I think that's a really important distinction to make, because what we're talking about here is not a diet to lose weight. We're talking about a recovery program that soothes addiction. And one of the side effects of soothing addiction and not binging and not eating addictively is that weight naturally falls off of our bodies. And we end up reaching a set point rather than, I have weigh-ins and here's my goal weight and, we cheer for each, I'm trying to, describe like sort of a Weight Watchers type of meeting or a Jenny Craig type of a meeting. But instead, we're people who have been devastated by food addiction. And so when somebody comes into the room, whether they're overweight or underweight or just the right weight per their doctor or per their set point or per how they feel about themselves physically, we can see that desperation in their eyes. And when we get up in front of the room and share our stories, our own personal stories, as we've tried to do with you, we hope that if food addiction is present in newcomers coming in, that those points of identification are lit up for them so that they know that we have an answer. And we're really only as valuable as our own experience. So when I share my experience and somebody wants what I have, they come and they ask me how I've done it. We're not, as I said, none of us are, some of us may be nutritionists, but most of us are not nutritionists. We're not physicians. We don't give medical advice. We don't even argue with Jenny Craig or Weight Watchers or intuitive eating or healthy at any size. We don't argue with anyone. We believe, I shouldn't say we believe, I would say me personally, I believe that Food Addicts I know that Food Addicts in Recovery Anonymous has no opinion on any other weight loss program or any other approach to treating addictive eating.
Correct.
We are just here to offer our stories as points of identification. And once somebody joins, they do get this constellation of support and help via these tools. And we are a 12-step program, so we do work the 12 steps. And, we kind of talk about the tools. I like to think about it this way: the tools that we use on a daily basis, phone calls, sponsorship, quiet time, literature, anonymity, 12-step work, service work. These things we do regularly. They're kind of behavior modification mechanisms. And then when we work the 12 steps are kind of a cleaning out of resentments and fears and hurts and harms. And, the 12 steps, from Alcoholics Anonymous have been adapted for use in this program. And so it's a, similar, almost identical. We just replaced the words, food addict for alcoholic. And we enjoy the same benefits and spiritual awakening that occurs from working those same 12 steps.
Yeah. And I really want to, I want to reiterate a point that you made that I want people to hear. And the fact that you said the desperation in the eyes of those who are technically at their goal weight have been to doctors, and yet you can still see the desperation because they are not under control at all.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
That's huge.
Yeah. White knuckling it. Yeah. It's just, yeah.
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 And I love it.
Silence, right. Mm-hmm.
Correct. Even though they look okay.
Mm-hmm.
And at this point, it's for every problem that I've ever faced in my office that anybody has. It always turns back to a spiritual battle. And I've read the big book. I've gone to AA meetings just to go to them because I typically don't drink at all. But I'm like, I don't know what this is. I just know Bill W.'s story, and I know how it all began, and I'm intrigued and fascinated. And the process works.
Mm-hmm.
And it works well.
It really does. It really does.
Yeah. So here you both are, knee deep in this program, at your fighting weight, as we like to call it in my office. Why continue?
Laura, I'll let you take that one.
Yeah, thanks. Thank you. Yeah, because we want to keep that serenity. We want to know, we want to, like, as I mentioned, my life got so much bigger when I came into this program. And it's a different mindset. We talk about living, again, from 12 steps a day at a time. But it's kind of for the rest of my life, but a day at a time. This isn't something that we've done to lose weight. Okay, we've got to the weight. Yay, hooray, dump that, jump off. Because why would we want to? This is a way of living. And it promotes just so much peace and serenity. And it is, we have friends within the program for sure. We have connection. There's things that we don't have to rely on ourselves. So it's very much turning, that first step is surrendering, admitting we're powerless over food and that our lives have become unmanageable. And that doesn't change as soon as, but as long as we have this daily reprieve, if we follow these steps and we stay connected to a sponsor, even though she still has a sponsor, even though she's been in for 18 years, people do have sponsors still, and then we start to do service and then we sponsor. So we also stay in to pass this message of recovery to other people. Yeah. So I think we're still getting benefits from it. And we also we're so grateful when we give it back to other people too. Someone spent 15 minutes every day for a year. And now I don't talk to her every single day anymore. I talk to her, 3 times a week now. But that's a lot of minutes that you would pay a lot of money for to go to a therapist or something.
Sure.
And not that we're doing therapy, but just having a listening ear and someone who's been on that path before you, who can understand, and someone who knows you honestly enough to hold that up and to say, boy, that sounded pretty selfish. No one else talks to me like that except for my sponsor. But it's not in a mean way. It's it's a truth-telling way.
Sure.
That I welcome into my life, and I want to have those kind of relationships. And even with fellows, that we're upset about something with our spouse or job, we can talk to a fellow and talk about the emotions and things of it and get that out so we don't go home and explode. Correct. There's just a lot of benefits from it that I want to keep.
Awesome. And Julie?
I would add to all of that, ditto, yes. And I would add to that not only, well, I will say I know that it's transformed me. I know that it's transformed me physically, mentally, spiritually, emotionally, and I would say familially, my family life has changed. my work life has changed. I have more energy. I exercise. I feel great. However, the thing that really keeps me in the program over the long haul, Laura started talking about, she really tapped into this idea that, somebody has taken out an enormous amount of time to pass this message along to me. I feel a certain responsibility to pass it along to others. However, if it was just responsibility and felt like all work, I don't know that would, keep me as enthusiastic as I continue to be. I would tell you that I'm inspired. I mean, I can use Laura as an example. I can witness to you right now that I saw Laura come in. I've been in our fellowship locally for 11 years now. And so I've seen a lot of people come in, and a lot of people, I watched Laura join. I watched her come in at a much larger size. I watched her, stand from the front of the room and look at the room like, there's an answer here and I'm not sure I like it, but I'm going to try it. And I've watched Laura and countless others, shrink physically and grow abundantly in all areas of their lives. I've watched people surmount obstacles. I've watched people transform their relationships. I've watched people have this light come on and this glow about them. I have literally watched people just like transform before my very eyes, and that is not to be missed. I mean, that keeps me inspired, and I need to see the power of recovery in other people, because I don't always feel it working the same way in me. I mean, yeah, I know I'm different. I know I can accomplish things that I didn't before. I know that my relationships can be transformed. Yeah. My sponsor will tell me that. People will tell me that. They'll reflect that back to me. But I almost don't even see it in myself as much as I see it in other people. And when I watch the miracle happen in them, that's faith building for me, that this process continues to work. Because if it worked for you, it can work for me. And if it worked for her, it can work for me. And if it worked for him, it can work for me, and so there is this mutual sort of collaborative group, we lift each other up. And for an addiction that manifests for so many of us as very isolating, very secretive, very hidden, there is something truly powerful about pulling all that dark ugliness out of the corners of our closets and the back seats of our cars and, the alley where we're digging through the garbage, and bring all that out into the sunlight and share it and show it, not as a point of shame, but as a point of hope. When people look at my pictures and hear my story, they're like, you are not the same person. And I look around the rooms and I say, these are not the same people. And I need that inspiration because, because life is lifey and, and it goes on and hard things happen. And I don't have to go through any of those things alone anymore. I have a network of people who are inspired and inspiring around me every day.
Awesome. I love you too. I do. And I'm so pleased to have met you and to hear your story and to hear your heart and what you've gone through, what you get to witness, and that you get to be just the light that you are and just help other people walk into that light from so much darkness that we tend to put on ourselves. And it's an awesome thing to behold. And I am changed having been in the same room with both of you, so to speak. I thank you so much for your time. Any parting words, anything you feel like we didn't give justice to?
Well, I do want to just say in closing, again, that Laura and I are just sharing our own experiences. We're not, paid professionals by Food Addicts in Recovery Anonymous. And that said, we're two really good examples of people who work the program as strongly as we know how, because our lives as food addicts really depend on that. And if anybody can relate to any aspect of what we've shared, again, I would give the website address as foodaddicts.org, foodaddicts.org. And from there, you can take, questions. If you're a healthcare professional and you're curious about how you might be able to use our program with patients or clients or anybody who might have a problem with food addiction, there's material on our website for you there. And so I would steer anybody to the website. And, Laura and I are both in the Seattle-Tacoma area, and we're in face-to-face meetings. And so you can find us there.
Mm-hmm. That's awesome. Yeah. Anything else from you?
Thank you so much. Nope. I'm just grateful for the opportunity to share this.
I'm so thankful as well, and I appreciate both of you so much. Thank you for the website. Thank you that people can get a hold of you, and thank you for continuing to do what you do. I just applaud you, and I'm so pleased. This was an awesome interview. I hope this hits you right where it needs to, or that you share it with somebody, or that it lifts your life in some way, shape, or form, because I know it has mine, and I'm a different person just having spent this 40 minutes. And so thank you both again for appearing on the show. I just so appreciate both of you. Until next time, I'm Dr. Troy Munson.
Thanks for listening. If you have any questions or comments, you can reach Dr. Munson at 360-893-8586 or email him at chiroman@dr.com. That's chiroman@dr.com. Check out our current workshop schedule on Facebook at Infinity Whole Health.